Okay. Today we're going to be learning about vestigial structures, as you can see. Really we're only covering the basics, so nothing too in-depth, and we are debunking misconceptions. Okay, so exactly what are vestigial structures? Vestigial structures are A. Structures that are reduced in function, or, and the or is important, structures that are completely functionless. Now, very common misconception about vestigial organs and structures is that they can only be completely functionless, but the truth is they can either be reduced in function or completely functionless. For example, we have the extrinsic muscles in the ear. And you would realize this by some people can wiggle their ears, some people can't. And many mammals that live today, including primates, which is what we evolved from, use their muscles to move their ears like a satellite dish in order to hear potential threats. But in humans, we don't need them in order to survive or reproduce. They're just leftover features that still remain within our bodies. Okay. So, some definitions that you might need to know, and you will need to remember these. Okay, so the first one, hard inheritance. This states that any traits that are acquired within an organism's lifetime are not passed on to the offspring. So this one is what actually happens. And soft inheritance states that traits that are acquired within an organism's life are passed on to offspring. So hard inheritance is not, soft inheritance is, but this one does not occur. So hard inheritance, again, is how genes and traits are actually passed on to offspring, and these genes are the ones an individual is born with. So to make this a little more clear, we'll make them into two possible cycles. So this one will represent hard inheritance. So say a random mutation occurs in an organism that changes white coloring to red. And W and R are stating the genes that code for white and red coloring. This mutant will be passed on to the egg, which will contain the R gene. This offspring will exhibit the red coloration. Yeah. And then any offspring from that one will also contain the R, unless there is another mutation. So, for soft inheritance, the parent initially also has white coloring, but what happens is there's no mutation in the genes that are passed on. There's just a change in coloration because of environmental challenges, for example. So change in coloring from white to red. And what soft inheritance would say is that this is passed on to the egg, which would also have the R, and then the offspring would exhibit the red coloration. But in fact, this is not how it actually happens. It has to be within the genes that are passed on to the offspring, which is how hard inheritance works. And the genes that are actually passed on to the offspring depends on what line of cell they're in. So the germline is the line of cells that consists of cells used in reproduction, so gametes, for example, and the somatic line consists of cells that are not used in reproduction. That would include any physical traits that you may change throughout your lifetime. For example, say there is a really big bodybuilder, and those are really bad, but they are depicting muscles. If that, say that bodybuilder, let's say it's a male, mates with a female, and they produce a baby, that baby will not look like this. It will not be born with big muscles, because muscles that are genes that code for these muscles are in the somatic line, which are not passed on. So only genes that are in cells in the germline are passed on to offspring. Okay. And then there are different people that viewed vestigial structures differently in inheritance, so we will look at those different views. Jean-Baptiste Lamarck was before Darwin in his views. So this is what he believed. He believed in something called use versus disuse, is how a structure would occur, or a vestigial structure would occur. So say that an organism didn't want or didn't use its hind legs for some reason, then that would be the reason that structure would not be functional anymore. In fact, that is not the case. This does not happen. He also believed in soft inheritance, which we just discussed, and that does not happen as well. So these are both wrong. Darwin, who is the leading mind in evolutionary biology, he believed in natural selection. And he also believed in hard inheritance, which is what we know actually occurs. So again, the use versus disuse theory is commonly confused with Darwin's views about natural selection. The use versus disuse theory states that an organ that is used a lot will grow in size and or function, and an organ that is not used a lot will decrease in size and or function, which could obviously lead to a vestigial structure, but again, this does not actually happen. Natural selection is supposedly one of the mechanisms of how things evolve or devolve in this case, but you will learn more on that later. And that is all I have to teach you for today. I hope you learned a lot, and good luck on answering your questions. I hope you get perfect. Thank you for watching.